Hello and welcome back to Mark's NOTCAST, an irregular series in which a middle-aged man talks to his mobile phone about things he either likes, loves, or merely owns, and sometimes doesn't own because they're so bad. This is about number 467, good God, and it's the 12th of November 2025, it's a Wednesday. I'm not doing any gigs for a while. Well, I am actually. I'm doing one on Friday, but most gigs, I'm not doing many gigs compared to perhaps October, September, and August. So I'm having a little bit of oh God, it's dread using the word maturity, but a little bit of slowing down, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of thinking. And before we get any further into today's episode, which is a random record rummage. Firstly, my tried and trusted shining bag is in the wash. So we instead have San Francisco's premier Bay Area thrashers, Metallica, in an eco bag form as the vessel in which the goodies currently hide. But before I get to that, I just wanted to do a little thing about politics. And I've mentioned it before, way back when. There's an awful lot of politics in the world. And a lot of it seems to be driven by a sense of outrage and anger. And I could go into an apoplexy of rage and fury about the state of certain things in the world and the way in which certain things are happening and certain decisions that are made by, certain people in positions of power. I read a phrase actually that said the people in charge are busy giving themselves golden toilets whilst everyone else is shut out of the conversation. And that's pretty much how I feel about the world at the moment. It's not great, is the correct way of putting it. But there's really no point, kind of, for me, telling you who to vote for or how to vote or anything. I do this stuff as an escape from the, frankly, unsatisfactory reality that is the outside world. And instead want to focus on the things that bring me joy. And sometimes, of course, when I talk about certain bands and certain albums, actually, sometimes they don't bring me joy. I go into every situation, be that professional or personal, with a hope that people will bring their best and their best selves to the situation. And I like being right, and I'm pleasantly surprised when it happens. And like most people, don't like being wrong, which of course was a tragic mistake when I put the needle on the records, and I heard some very disappointing music indeed by people that I like. Not Saint Anger by Metallica, which I think is their best album, or more correctly, my favourite. And talking to Metallica, let's go into the Bag of Dreams and see what there is in there. So, usual rules. My 15-year-old picks out a 7-inch, a 12-inch, a book, a CD, a DVD, and a BluRay, and I don't know what they are, so I'm going to go for the 7-inch first, and I'm not quite sure, but I think I know. This isn't actually this is multiple 7 inches. This is a collection of Jam 7-inch singles I got for 50p from a charity shop last year, next to, of all places, a Farm Foods. They'd just put out the box, and I was into the guy, is there anything in there? And he was like, nah, it's mostly rubbish. I had a look. Loads of Jam singles, a couple of Erasure 7 inches, the Motorhead's live EP from 1970, Erasure's Crackers International, and the Circus on 7-inch single. There was a Duran Duran single, or I think it might be an Arcadia actually, and there was a whole bunch of stuff by the Jam. So the Jam here we have A Town Called Malice on 45 RPM. Actually, despite what some people might think, I'm not a huge fan or hater of Paul Weller. It's just not really for me. I can tell he's good at what he does. Not really for me. I do like the Jam. I have a little soft spot for parts of the Style Council. Solo Weller, not so much. But in 2009, the only time to date that I can recall, after leaving the Jam, Paul Weller and Bruce Foxton played together on stage was at the Royal Albert Hall. And we were there. We saw Bruce Foxton and the Jam, well, more correctly, Bruce Foxton and Paul Weller play Jam songs on stage for the only time I can think of since 1982, in 2009. So I kind of feel like I've seen a jam reunion of a sort, especially now I think the drummer's dead. Is it Rick Buckler? And of course, as we know, that means that the Jam can't play together again. And I think Bruce has retired from live performance, which means that there's a band called From the Jam that doesn't feature any members of the Jam. How does that work? I don't know. Also saw Mick Tolbert, who I think played keys in the Style Council, playing keys for Gene last month on their reunion shows in Sheffield and London. And that was an experience. Never thought I'd hear those songs again. I love Gene. They are a sorely underrated band. And the gig that I saw felt like a mass communal sing-along of people greeting the songs as old friends that they'd not seen for years with a warm hug and raised voices. But that's a long way away from the Jam. So we have in here A Town Called Malice, and that's backed with Precious, another Paul Weller original in its original generic sleeve. We have here When You're Young and Smithers Jones in a picture sleeve. We have News of the World and Aunties and Uncles and Innocent Man. Innocent Man written by Bruce Springsteen. I was going to say Bruce Springsteen, but that's Bruce Foxton, sorry. My ability to recall names is not great. We have here Start, backed with Liza Radley, and that's Liza with a Z, not Liza with an S. And I don't know why I haven't got an inner sleeve for that, actually, a generic sleeve. I'm going to have to pick that one up. Then we have Strange Town at a grand old total of 25p from Backtrack Records, wherever that is. I think Backtrack Records might be the one that's on Whitstable Seafront, actually. And backed with The Butterfly Collector, which was covered to enormous and great effect by the band Garbage on the album, I think, is it Sound and Skill or something, the Jam Covers album from 1998 that saw the first solo releases by both Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher. And I really need to mention that, actually, when I do my next episode on Oasis. And then finally, the bitterest pill I ever had to swallow, which from memory might be actually the last Jam single. I can't recall exactly. This is in a non-canon 60s EMI sleeve. Look at the colours on that. Wow, isn't that amazing? It's backed with Pity Poor Alfie and Fever, which I don't recall now, but I think is the you give me fever, ooh, doo, doo, when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight, fever, etc. Viva Fever. And if Viva Fever, I know Diva Fever is a Spinal Tap song, by the way. Viva Fever is a great song title, and I will sell it to you if you make me a decent offer. So there you go, that's number one, that's the Jam. Number two is an LP. Number three is a book. Let's go for this. What's this? Sicaro. Okay. I haven't seen this. I need to see this. I have basically three types of films. Ones I don't care about. Ones I bought on Blu-ray or CD or DVD to see, normally at quite a low level that I'll get round to watching because I think, I should watch that. I've got a lot of films in that part. Out of Africa, Ben-Hur, The Killing Fields, Sicaro. So I haven't actually seen this. I should see it, but I haven't, if I remember correctly. Directed by Denis Villeneuve, who has done some amazing films. He did Gravity, Dune, done some very, very good stuff. And Sicaro, which is probably quite good, but I don't know because I haven't seen it yet. What I do know is that my favourite podcast, which is called Sequelizers and is now coming to an end, I Will Miss You, Stogs, Stoghz, on all the socials, and Jack Chambers Ward and Tim will miss your 3-hour dissertations around why Sicaro is good and why Sicaro 2 is bad and how Sicaro 2 could be a better film. We'll miss it, but I'll watch this and find out. I think I started watching about 10 minutes of it on streaming a few years ago, and I thought, that's really good, but that's not where my brain space is right now. Because sometimes your brain has to be in the right space to experience something. Like, for example, I know Requiem for a Dream by Darren Aronofsky is one of the greatest films ever made. It is also really bloody miserable, and I can never watch it again. So you have to be in the right mind space to deal with that. Right, so let's go for CDs. Brilliant. So this is Cocteau Twins, a band that I never got to see, but I did see their drummer playing in The Wedding Present. and this is their BBC Sessions double CD that was released probably about 2008 or thereabouts. Let's quickly check. Oh, 1999. And this features 4 John Peel sessions, Kid Jensen, Saturday Night Live, Mark Radcliffe and Robert Elms radio sessions for the BBC. So 2 CDs, a grand total of 30 songs recorded for the BBC in live versions in the studio with overdubs. And just wondering if there's anything in here. I've got one of my favourite song titles in here, Seekers Who Are Lovers. What an incredible song title that is. And I do need to listen to more Cocteau Twins. I mean, that applies to just pretty much everybody in the UK needs to listen to more Cocteau Twins. Never got to see them, could have seen them. I wasn't grown up enough, really, for them to connect with me at that point in time. But glad that I got there in the end. I remember listening to their music whilst I was in a cafe with someone who I thought the world of at the time, and they were playing Cocteau Twins, and I thought, I need to know what this band is. And I did, and I do, and it's Cocteau Twins, and here is the BBC Sessions. Right, what have we got next? Right, book. Oh, might not have a DVD. Right, okay, so book. This is David Lewis Gedge, Tales from the Wedding Present, volume 1 of the official autobiography. Also, this is a component part of, or parts of it, have been part of the 17-part graphic novel series Tales from the Wedding Present, which tells anecdotes from the story and lives of the Wedding Present and David Gedge. In the 17 issues, they are presented in a non-chronological format. In this, they are presented, as far as I can recall, from in a chronological format, and they are, give you a cast of characters there, and dedicated to John Peel, and starts off with, I think a section in a Los Angeles diner in the summer of 2008, before slowly going back to, the 50s, for example, and what it was like growing up. This stuff is very good, really interesting. It has a foreword by Ian Rankin, who has great taste in music, clearly likes The Wedding Present, also likes The Twilight Sad. And if you know me, you know I love that band as well. And this also is signed by Lee Thacker, who is the artist who has adapted and illustrated the contents. And oh, brilliant, I've also got a flyer. So I think I bought this in November 2022 at a show at Prism, now known as Circuit, in Kingston, in that there, England. And it was an acoustic show with David Gedge and Terry DeCastro and Melanie Howard, who was the band's bass player, kind of being a bit of a Q&A kind of role in it. Great book. I don't know if this is still available, but it's an interesting take upon what an autobiography can be and should be, as it tells the story of the band up to a certain point in a broadly chronological fashion. There will be a volume 2, which I have downstairs and bought last year, again at an acoustic show at Kingston, and there is volume 3, which is currently being worked up by Lee at the moment. So there you go. So I don't think there is a CD. No, there is a CD. There isn't a DVD in here, so I'm going to have to skip that today. Apart from the fact, I'll just pick out something at random from a shelf, which I've not talked about, and I haven't planned this out before. It is, and this will do it, although it's slightly cheeky because I know what this is going to be, Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon. Again, one of the films that I thought I really need to watch that before I get a chance to do it. Last saw it about 1999. I remember watching it on VHS in a flat in Walsall, not long before I entered what is probably the worst year of my life, which was the year 2000. End of the decade, end of the century, end of the millennia, here comes Helltown. So 2000 was a terrible year, but I remember watching Enter the Dragon as a 25, 26-year-old in the flat in Walsall that I shared with my then partner, and being like, well, that's very interesting, but completely forgot about it. Right, I think this might be the last one now, I think. And I think that is. So let's see what this is. Oh my, okay. Well, this is an unusual choice. This is the Smiths reissue of William It Was Really Nothing, 12-inch, back with How Soon Is Now and Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. Possibly the two finest B-sides in the history of mankind ever, one of which went on to be an A-side in itself, How Soon Is Now. Can you imagine doing How Soon Is Now and going, yeah, we'll stick that on the B-side. Good Lord. What a reason. A band kind of with a surfeit of riches, I believe, an excess of genius. This is the week that also saw the publication of Mike Joyce's autobiography, The Drums, which I haven't read, which means all three living members of the Smiths have now penned their autobiographies in much the same way as all three living members of Joy Division have penned their autobiographies. It'll only be a matter of time before someone else publishes an autobiography, and we'll end up with possibly an autobiography written by the sound man. Actually, for New Order, there is a book about the recording of Power, Corruption and Lies written by, I think it's Mike Johnson. He was a tape operator at Britannia Row Studios in 1983. Everyone has an autobiography in them. The question is it well written, and does anybody want to read it? I haven't read Mike Joyce's, so I'm not sure. I had a little dip in the shop, looks quite good, but I'll take it from there. The Smiths were one of the finest bands ever. You think about great 80s bands in Britain. Realistically, you've got the Smiths, New Order, The Cure and Depeche Mode. They're the big four of the 80s. I know some of you that like Duran Duran might be heartbroken at that statement, but I'm right. And I know Duran Duran are still going. Lots of you love them. That's great. I don't love them for reasons. I think I might have explained them before. I'm not going to do so again. It's not relevant. But yeah, this is the 12-inch to William It Was Really Nothing. And this 12-inch has a different cover to most 12-inches. I think the proper 12-inch has a different cover on it to this one. And I can't recall what that cover is. But for some reason, there's an alternative sleeve on the later pressings of William It Was Really Nothing. This is an artwork from Charlie Bubbles, TM, copyright 1968. I think they were refused permission to reuse the original the original kind of cover for some reason, or the rights expired. Morrissey went into his big book of Brandon Pictures and presented this. This also comes, by the way, this is the original 1980s rough trade version, and comes in one of the classic but rare inner sleeves, which for some reason the only bit of text I've got in there is the catalogue number there, RTT 166. You'd have thought he could have published the lyrics, for example, but didn't. And what's odd is that this whole thing is over in about 10 minutes and 30 seconds, which for a 3-track 12-inch is quite a big deal. William It Was Really Nothing, 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Wow. Time flies when you're the driver of a train. And How Soon Is Now 6 minutes 43, and then Please, 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 1 minute 40. Or 1 minute 50, and recorded at Jam Studios in London in July 1984. Cover star is Billy Whitelaw, by the way. It's like Morrissey had a book of pictures that he just had ready to deploy at whatever time he felt was necessary. William It Was Really Nothing is a blink and you'll miss it of a song. It's got a line that says, "Would you like to marry me? And if you like, you can buy the ring." And it's a flippant, silly song that goes very, very quickly about something that felt like something at the time but turned out to be nothing. And it reminds me of a great quote from the TV show Mad Men: is "One day it will amaze you to discover how little this means, even though at the time it may seem like the biggest and most important thing that's ever happened." And I think about that like in terms of the context of certain years of my life. They're just nothing. I barely remember them, except in the context of gigs that I might have gone to, or Cats or something. or relationships. And you know, if I have a moment where, you know, if you ask me, well, what was 2001 like? And I'll go, started off awfully, got better as it went along, then took a massive downhill dip, and I spent most of it on a sofa, whilst my then partner, who was doing a terrible job of hiding the fact that they were an alcoholic, just got more and more drunk, to the point where their contract wasn't renewed at work, and they on some occasions, at least twice, were over the limit and driving, and I was powerless to stop them because I can't drive, otherwise I would have driven. Quite an unusual, and now I like go, wow, that really happened, didn't it? 2001, not an amazing year, but it happened, and now it's just like, it has no impact upon my life on a day-to-day basis at all. I forget for huge chunks of time that year ever happened. Obviously, there's 9/11, which I had probably a unique perspective on, which I've not talked about. But aside from that, 2001 now has no impact upon the world I live in. And, you know, William, it was really nothing. B-sides, of course, How Soon Is Now, later a single in its own right, played live by the Smiths, not amazingly, and also by Solo Morrissey and Solo Johnny Marr many, many times. And followed up with Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. How Soon Is Now, of course, has that lyric about you can go to a club where you stand on your own and you leave alone and you go home and you cry and you want to die. And it's kind of like, I'm doing the things that I'm meant to do in order to get the inputs or to get the outputs. I'm doing these things, and then you kind of go, but it's not working for me. It's not presenting to me the outputs that I'm expecting, the life that I'm expecting, you know. And I had a period of time I was, you know, really depressed. And part of that was I was putting all the inputs in, but the outputs weren't translating. It was like you were dealing with a broken life, in so much as most of us, we have a way where we look at lives and we kind of go, well, if I do this, then that happens. If I run out in the street without looking, I probably am going to get run over, for example. Or if I put the key in the lock and turn the key, the door will open. I was doing that on a wider basis in terms of striving to achieve various things in my life. And what I wanted wasn't, you know, vastly outlandish. I wanted a job and a partner and enough money to have a reasonable quality of life and hopefully, you know, be happy. And the things which you do to make those things happen, the inputs that you provide, weren't generating the outputs. And that was a really, really difficult period of time, is when you think that the structure of life, the system of life just isn't working. And there are some times when that happens and it just feels like you just can't catch a break. It's really, really difficult to exist in that environment. But for some reason, eventually the tide turned and things went my way, and, you know, it worked out okay in the end, really. I mean, obviously there are things about my life now that I would change, that I would have be different, better, and, you know, to an extent it's like, well, I made certain decisions at certain points on the basis of the information that I had. Sometimes I knew they weren't vastly clever decisions. Most of the time they were relatively good ones, and they turned out okay. But there's that terror, the terror of knowing what life is all about, as Bowie sang in Under Pressure, where you get to the point where you kind of look at your life and you kind of go, I have a decision point here, I have a junction. I can go this way or I can go that way. There are no guarantees. Once I've made that decision, and obviously at some point you do have to make a decision, do I take the job? Do I enter the relationship? Do I, you know, go here instead of there? Do I flirt or not flirt, for example? Those type of things. And then it could be the point where you go, that worked out quite well, I'll do more of that. And then you kind of go, right. So, you know, and I wake up every day and reassess my life and go, is this the life we really want? To quote Roger Waters, you know, am I in the circumstances that I need to be? Can I live with the circumstances I'm in? What do I need to do to change the circumstances that I'm in, etc., etc.? And that's the kind of navel-gazing stuff that the Smiths, of course, soundtracked. Then the last track on here is Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want, which I've mentioned before. I've done an episode about the Smiths' Hatful of Hollow. This has inevitably appeared in that. And Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want is, again, one of the finest songs ever written. You know, the idea of see the luck I've had could make a good man turn bad. So for once in my life, let me get what I want. Lord knows it would be the first time. And it's a song and it's a play, and it's kind of just one of those things that it says where sometimes you look at your life and you kind of go, you know, your whole life has been a process of like pushing at sets of circumstances and finding that the phrase access denied comes up, like the end of The Lawnmower Man, if you remember that far back. A terrible movie. And Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want is also available in the instrumental form, performed by the Dream Academy, which is in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a magnificent film from 1986. And there's that moment where Cameron, I think, is looking at the painting, and it kind of zooms in and zooms in and zooms in, and suddenly it stops being people and it's just smudges. And it's just a lovely moment of cinematic art that you wouldn't expect in the middle of what would be otherwise a pretty normal teen comedy. And that's one of the reasons why Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a great film and you should watch it. So there you go. That is the Random Record Rummage on Wednesday, the 12th of November, 2025. A slightly risque shot there of Billy Whitelaw, which I'd totally forgotten was the case. We have The Enter the Dragon, Cocteau Twins, and of course The Jam and the Book. So I am going to wrap up at this point, and as per normal, be excellent to each other. Take care of yourselves. I will see you all soon. And in the meantime, as the drummer from Spinal Tap said, have a good time all the time. Right, I'm going to go and I'm going to eat a packet of strawberry and blackcurrant flavoured fruit pastels, because you only live once, and that's both a promise and a threat. So whilst you're here, make the most of it. Stay beautiful, beautiful ones, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.